Ah, dear. Oh, I press record. Um, that's the sigh of a man who didn't have a penny. Not a penny on parole. Now, it's pretty easy for me to sit in my little pad here up in Liverpool and record a video after a glorious day, having backed a few winners. I've backed no winners today. Nothing. Not a single thing. Um, And what I'm going to do is the process which I sometimes do when I'm really, really annoyed, mainly with myself, which is a process of learning where I momentarily join Opus Dei, which, if any of you have ever read the Da Vinci Code or seen the film, is a Catholic sect, I believe, who punish themselves by getting some kind of metal contraption and strapping it around their leg and then kind of whipping themselves to near death with blood everywhere as some kind of punishment. Now, I don't kind of take that to the extreme, but I am furious. You wouldn't believe how angry I am. I'm going to not swear because I'm kind of filming and you're watching. Um, the last time I felt this bad was probably, well, when was it? After the Paul Nicholls horse won the Summer Plate when he was on a short list of four and he won at 12-1. He was unexposed and I kind of ignored him, tipped two others in the race and didn't have a penny on him either. That took me 2 or 3 days to get over, and this might be the same, but I'm going to drag myself across hot coals for your enjoyment and also just flick through some of this post. And then actually focus on a comment from Darren, which actually made my evening and summed everything up rather well. It wasn't a great day. The purpose isn't to look back and say, oh, it was great or it was bad. We have more bad days than good on the whole. That's the nature of a non-odds cap. Thankfully, the good days far than uh, make up for the bad. That's what I was saying. So I was just thinking about what I was going to say next. Um, so yeah, I'm going to have a look at Parole in a moment because he's the only winner on the day that I am furious about not backing. And I'll say why I'm furious because it's nothing to do with the money or potential money. Uh, by just focusing on Ice Age, which I will do for a moment, I won't kind of go back and look at why I didn't back him. He was above his last winning mark. I thought he'd been knocking on the door, but I didn't personally think 5-1 was over generous. Now I can cope with not backing him because I also made a decision not to back plenty of other short priced horses, which more than paid for missing out on him winning, if that makes sense. So I'm slightly annoyed we didn't solve that puzzle. I say that's the royal we. I'm slightly annoyed I didn't strongly mention him, and slightly annoyed I didn't solve the puzzle personally by deciding to back him. Uh, because clearly he won, and I don't like leaving any winner unbacked. But as I've said before, you will leave winners unbacked because you can't back everything, and backing everything is far from advised. Um, and because you can't back everything, you will make mistakes, and we all make mistakes. The key is not to make the same mistakes too often, and Parole is one such absolute howler, a howler. 14-1. Now, I'm just going to scoot down here to the any notes section. Now, of course, I'm saying this in the context of the fact that he's won. But I didn't have the thought process I'm going to, which I've had many times before pre-race, just eluded me for this horse. I'm not sure if it was Galway and Goodwood fatigue, general fatigue from a rather lively weekend with some friends who came up from Suffolk and tried to keep me young. As my 28th birthday edges nearer, that's on Thursday. You can send cards to, no, I'm joking. 28, I don't know where the time goes, but we're not here to wallow in that self-pity as 30 hurdles faster and faster towards me. The bit I want to focus on is this bit here where it just says, no tips as nothing hitting my criteria, which, to be blunt, was a load of rubbish. I was going to say something else then. As you know, my criteria, you can probably repeat them as well as I can. Generally, for flat horses in particular, unexposed, could be more to come. Are they doing something different? Are they 6-1 or bigger? Parole, 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 parole. Let's have a quick look, and I will tell you why I left him. Now, the bit that makes me annoyed, like I said, is not the money, not because I'm kind of rolling in it, and I'd have quite liked the £160 that I'd have won, because if I'd have tipped him, I'd have had a tenner on, or I'd have quite liked the £80 I'd have won, because I may have had a fiver on. I'm not annoyed I haven't won that. I'm furious that I didn't solve the puzzle, because that's the main thing that drives me. The winnings is a nice little kind of over times, a nice little side pot. I'm a 5, 10, £20, occasionally 25, £30 punter. And if I can win a bit over time and spend some money on some nice bottles of wine or beer or the odd holiday, then job's a good one. The idea is to have some fun, and my drive is solving the puzzle and getting it right. And I hate with a passion not solving a puzzle when a horse that is a double figure price wins. So what did we do with Parole, and what didn't we? Now Gigi's updates in the evening, kind of after his win. So there's his win. I have, as an amateur, and the key, as I said, is not to make the same mistakes too many times. I torture myself here. Have been far from impressed with his last 2 runs. And I know I've just looked at them. I've looked at them in the context of his price, and I've gone, he looks horrendously out of form. Move on, knowing there was a couple of other horses which had caught my eye flicking through. Awful, awful, amateur hour in racing to profit towers. Why should we have been more positive? What didn't I take note of? I'll tell you what I didn't take note of, because this is up there. I'm going to use this is Horse Race Base, which is what I use mainly for system building. All of the stats research, actually, in terms of what's in the stats packs. Everything you see me mention in the daily notes is normally from Gigi's Gold and the trainer drop downs, which you've seen before. Now, what do we notice here? First thing, Josh, smack yourself around the face. He's unexposed. He's had 4 turf flat runs. 4. Won one of them. So bright lights should have been going off my head. 14-1 this morning, and he's unexposed. Can you make a case? And is the horse doing something differently from last runs? Well, let's just have a look here. Now, he won Class 5 in soft ground, and we knew there'd been some rain. That's fine. 2 starts ago, he returns after 700 days. You can excuse any horse there. Mid-division, headway over 3 furlongs out, weekend 2 furlongs out. Fine. 700 days off from a mark of 70. He runs 49 days later. He clearly had an issue before that, and they want to take their time, slowly. We don't want the horse to bounce. We don't want to have him a hard time. They probably gave him a bit of time off after that race, and runs at Ripon. Soon led, so he led for quite a time, headed 4 furlongs out. This is over 1 mile and 4 furlongs, weakened from over 2 furlongs out. Now, without watching the video, he could have done too much. He might have still needed it a bit because he's 49 days off. It's Class 4, so he might not be good enough. He probably hasn't stayed. And I've just looked at the fact that he's come last. In the context of his price, sometimes I really just beyond belief. So he ticks the boxes, because as you can see when I click that, what 2 things is he doing differently? So we know he's unexposed, so there should be more to come at some point. What 2 things is he doing differently? Well, he drops in class. Flashlight, again, whacking me around the head. Should have been. It wasn't. And he drops in distance by 3 furlongs. And we knew he started to fade 4 furlongs out, having led. So we also know that he might be a prominent racer here. We can see here that he's returning after 16 days from his last run. So that is more of a positive. So he had 700 days off. Then he had 49. Now he's returning 16. So a big gap. Short the gaps between races. It would suggest his 3rd run after a big break, he might be tuned up a bit. He also gets a tongue tie for the first time. I don't think it's reapplied, but it's certainly different from his last 2 runs. Just gets worse, doesn't it? Just gets worse. So that's 3 main things he's doing differently. The rest pattern, And now normally when I'm in this zone and I'm kind of looking at these horses, I'll then look at supporting stats. So we'll look at Easterby. Now his weigh-in was an age stat, and this is another bloody nail in the coffin. And yes, no parole for me. You'll know from the elite squad there's certain strict criteria that I use to extrapolate those stats. Well, Easterby was very close, and when I go through my horses, I do kind of, well, often, it don't look like I've done that with him here, I kind of put a cross next to those stats that are close. So Easterby with 5 to 6 before this season started over the previous 3 years was 21 bets, 5 wins, 10 had placed. Now the criteria are 25% win strike rate or 20% win strike rate and 50% place and plus 15, at least plus 15 Betfair starting price. So he was very close. He's missed out by 1 horse. But I am strict with that because otherwise you keep second guessing yourself all the way through. But that should have been noted on my notepad, which is another indication for me personally to have a closer look at the horse. Now, I haven't even mentioned him in the notes and haven't backed him, which still annoys me because I haven't solved the puzzle. I keep repeating that. Now, this is what you're seeing here is the process I've already gone through once because I hate losing and I hate getting things wrong. And I've got this one spectacularly wrong. Just awful. So, yes, what were we going to say? Tim Easterby. Now, we could have looked and thought, and this I thought after the race, nowhere near to thinking this before the race, it's a Pro-Am Ladies Riders race. You know Rachel Richardson's one of the best jockeys in here. You know that because she doesn't have a miss before her name. And you know that because she's not claiming. She's a professional. She won for us on Flying Pursuit the other week. She's probably the best rider in this race, I should think. Emma Sayers pretty good. She's all right. Sammy Jo Bell's okay, but she's pretty much up there. And we could have looked at the trainer with the jockey at the course in handicaps in the last 5 years. Oh, God, it gets worse, doesn't it? Doesn't that get worse? Now, that includes the 2 bets, including the 1 winner that happened this evening, I think. I think that's already updated. But still, 24 bets, 5 wins. 11 places, take up, plus 16 points or whatever, plus 15. That should have been another indication. So all those things should have come together, and you can have your doubts. Your doubts were the well-being and form of the horse. But at 14 to 1 shots, that affects your staking and how much you should have on it, whether or not, if you're £2.50, if £2.50 is a point, or half a point, or 5 is a point, or whatever, or tenner, deciding where on that scale you might have a bit of reservations. You have a fiver on, or you kind of, if I'd have tipped him, I know I'd have had £10 on, but I shouldn't bang on about the cash and the money. We didn't solve the puzzle. We did not solve the puzzle, and I hate not solving the puzzle with big priced horses that are unexposed and are doing about 3 or 4 things differently. Awful. So I hold my hands up there. That was horrendous. In the grand scheme of life, obviously not that horrendous. We're talking about a horse race. But my word, that's infuriating. Isn't that infuriating? What's more infuriating, just to rub salt in the open, gashing wound, didn't even mention him in the notes. He's an unexposed horse, and I try and mention the unexposed horses. And the unexposed ones I did mention were 7 to 2, 11 to 4. Just maybe I need a rest. I'm going to Ibiza in a couple of weeks for a friend's wedding, but more on that nearer the time. A week Wednesday, actually. Don't worry, you won't notice much difference, but I'll touch on that nearer the time. I do plan on sitting by a pool and just kind of drinking and taking advantage of the hotel all-inclusive poolside bar. So that's parole. I'm not going to dwell on that for much longer. I will think about that. I'll go to bed thinking about that. I'll wake up thinking about that. Occasionally, I'm quite sad. I look at myself in the mirror and just shake my head, and then just kind of shout. Well, not shout, but get a bit angry with myself and go, "What was I doing?" And that's. I don't want pity or sympathy. That is a process I go through and have gone through ever since I was about 19, which was the year after I lost 2.5 grand following a tipster. Through that process of trying to get better. Now I have the ability to do what I've just done there. obviously in hindsight, obviously after the race, but many of you have seen me either do that on video or write about exactly what I've said there before the race, and I've tipped some of them, clearly not enough of them. And how I've just, like an amateur, like I did when I was 19 or 20, when I didn't really know much, looked at his last 2 runs and where he's finished and just gone, meh, nah, he's out of form, isn't he? No chance. 30 seconds I probably did that. Awful. Look at every horse, especially those that are a double figure price. Click on it, look at it, see if it's unexposed, see if it's doing something different, see if the story makes sense. The 700 days off, the 49 days, the 16 days, the jockey riding in one of the best jockeys in the race. The fact that 3 starts ago, he returned after 700 days off a mark of 70 and has come down 7 pounds. And that's not dodgy, that, okay? That's not some idiots on Twitter, likely to be on Twitter because that's where most of the idiots live, and occasionally me. And in this example, I'm one of those idiots. The idiots that will say that was dodgy. Oh, he's finished tails off. How has he won? The story makes sense because it's an animal who had an injury, who had 700 days off, who then had 49 days off. And they ran the horse probably to get it fitter on the track. They probably got it as fit as they could at home, to get him in love with racing again and to make sure they didn't injure him again. There was an owner who was paid, probably paid, either for the horse to stand in a field for 700 days or certainly to be trained the last few months when he came back in the yard. It's costed and spent a lot of money on this horse. They're entitled to take their time, and we could see that. We could see the story makes sense. I didn't on this occasion. One of you, at least one of you, I hope there's more than one of you, at least one of you did. Darren congratulated me. Well done, Josh. I didn't feel like taking any of the praise. Obviously, and rightly so, because I didn't mention him in the notes. I didn't solve the puzzle. That's a personal thing, but for you, as members, I didn't kind of elaborate on him or mention these unexposed or mention all those things I've just talked about. And that's the other thing that really frustrates me. You wouldn't believe how annoyed I get at that also. But I am going to read the comment from Darren. I did just want to make sure, well, I was hoping he did just pluck it out and wasn't, I wasn't sure if Darren was new, I forget. Apologies if you've been a member for about 6 months or whatever. And I wanted to check that he's not backing all horses in section 1 because that will lose you money. Do not do that, as I've said in the welcome note. But this little comment here summed up, did make me happy, made me smile. As Darren said, he views these in section 1, the qualifiers against the stats pack, as pointers. Well, as it's a pointer, it drew my attention to the horse race and I punted accordingly. I 1 point. I never punt blind and had a look at the trainer jockey combo and thought it was worthy of a minimum stakes each way punt. As far as I'm concerned, you're right, that did its job. The qualifier against the stats did its job. It drew my attention to a possible punt. It was my decision to go with it. Hurrah! That is the whole purpose of what I do, pretty much, is that, because hopefully Darren has got a hell of a lot of satisfaction from picking him out. He's had a starting point, he's looked at the horse, he's made his own judgment, he's thrown in some trainer jockey combo stats, and having looked at that, he's to be Richardson, you can't blame him. And he's gone, I'm backing it. Minimum stakes each way. There's probably a bit of a doubt, but I'll take the punt of 14 to 1. And he's done a much better job on that horse than I've done. I'm annoyed at myself. I'm annoyed for not mentioning him. I'm annoyed for not solving the puzzle, and that's a big, big slap on the wrist. It's a metal contraption planted round my leg, and I'm just going to kind of whip myself and join Opus Dei for a little bit longer. So that's parole. Only 20 minutes. God, we're flying by. So that's that. That is the process I do go through, and I quite like torturing myself because this is a bloody difficult game. Psychologically tough, but it is very hard. And in order to improve, you have to look back at what you did wrong, at your thought process, at what you didn't see, at what you should have seen, why something was a bet. And you can always take a chance on a 14, 16 to 1 shot. like I said, it's then about the staking amount. So I'm glad Darren had a bet. I hope a few others of you did as well. I didn't. I lost a bit on Forever Lady, not too much. I did throw a fiver at David O'Meara's horse here, who had enough doubts. And I did put a bigger bet on the other qualifier, Breakwater Bay, who ran a miss and also received an awful ride. So that's that. That's that. Looking back, I am going to look forwards. You'll be pleased to hear. Hurrah! Let's move on to tomorrow's qualifiers. And as I speak, Mike hasn't posted a comment. Bless him. He is a trooper. Normally ensuring I haven't kind of missed something, which happens again too regularly for my liking. But it looks like I've picked up all the qualifiers against the stats pack today, or tomorrow, I should say. I'm recording this on Monday evening. Let's have a look at Tuesday, should we? Let's get upbeat and smile and put the contraptions down and look forwards. Now I'm looking, I had a quick flick through these, but you're going to get my first thoughts here. And I'm just going to say it as I see it. Jeff Potts isn't a qualifier on any strategy, isn't elite squad. Now this price will be this. I think these are taken from Odds Checker. I think Matt has his own odds. Well, I can see. Let me have a click. Oh no, the 6 main ones. Yeah, he uses those 6. Jeff Potts will be the best available one, which is Bet365. It looks like he's 3-1 or shorter generally. That price for me is short. You can see what he's doing differently. You've seen the TC there, which indicates trainer change. I'll just look at this. He's 0 from 9 1 places on turf. He's running over 6 furlongs in class 5. So he is dropping, he's going back up in trip, and he is dropping in class from his last few runs, and his handicap mark has come down a little bit, 65. So it's actually come down £5 in his last 2 runs. So he is doing a couple of things differently, and he runs the first time for Richard Fahey. Now Fahey is, with new horses new to the yard, 40 bets. This is the last 2 years, these drop down steps. 40 bets, 5-1, 12 a place. If he's 8-1, if he's 10-1, if he's a bit bigger, you can kind of overlook that. For me, for a 7-2 shot, they could be better. What I am going to do is see if he brings horses to Leicester that are running for him for the first time, and to do that I'm going to use another excellent report within GG's, which is the trainer change report, which highlights horses running for the yard for the first time that have been in training. We can see Gordon Elliott there. This is the last year. What I was going to do actually, sorry, is they don't have that. I was going to see if he targets a specific track. But I don't have that stat in front of me, so this is live and that's gone well. I'm looking at tomorrow. So Fahey's all right, but not brilliant. 10%. But it is a reason why the horse may improve, as just touched on. So you have to kind of weigh all that up. The fact he's 0 from 9, 1 place on turf. He's not unexposed. He's not exposed either. Maybe he'll improve. Maybe it says something about the quality of this race that he's that short, because it is just desperate stuff, as you can see. He has at least won in the class, and he's won over 6 furlong. There's a lot of red. There's horses that don't like winning very often. It's a pretty low quality grade. Jeremy Gask wasn't a bad trainer. So we'll see. And if the trainer was in red hot form as well, 12 from 100, only 8% win strike rate, 30% of win and placing, but is performing below market expectations, and perform, if you just kind of based on chance, the impact value. So I generally, most horses under 6-1 I have to take a closer look at. Elite squads that are kind of 7-2 is the shortest I'd go, 7-2, 9-2. If you can make a case, I kind of back them. If they're not elite squad, I generally rarely go under 9-2, rarely under 6-1 if I can help it. That's just because you have to be right a lot of the time at that end of the market. And it's hard. It's hard being right at that end of the market. I did just think about it earlier to kind of put it into some context. if the average horse you're backing is 3-1 and it's sent off at 3-1, so you're not beating the market, it's sent off at 3-1, and you backed it at 3-1, so there's not much price movement. You've got to back 4 winners every 20 bets just to break even. So you've got to have a 1 in 5 strike rate. You've got to be 20% win strike rate before you've done anything. Now there's 2 options there. You regularly back 3-1 shots at 5-1 or 6-1. So suddenly you're making an extra 2 points on those 4 bets, and suddenly you've got 8 points from your 20 bets profit. So good stuff. Or you try and back 5 or 6 winners every 20 bets. But 20-25% win strike rates are hard. They're tough. Even when you're in the price ranges where that should be easier. And I much prefer to look at bigger prices because, you know, like I said, it is hard to be right, and you have to be right less often to make it pay rather well. And to be honest, it's quite good fun backing decent priced horses as well. But there is method to my madness. Having those, you know, long-term profit and enjoyment comes from backing bigger price horses and substantially beating the market. There's some people that don't get value, and it's simple in my mind. It's the idea of backing a horse at a bigger price than you think it should be, and if you can consistently beat starting price, you can only ever really win. If you're backing a 3-1 shot at 6-1 regularly, well, 3-1 shots win 1 in 4 times, 25% of the time. Now, if you back every one of those at 6-1, you're only ever going to make money. You could only make money. It's that simple. If you're backing the price of a horse that it should be, you're going to struggle because the market's got it right. I don't like to overcomplicate this game, so I don't have a maths brain. You know, basic grasp is fine. I'm a history and politics graduate. I much prefer human behaviour, which is why I have a big focus on trainer stats. And you don't need to overcomplicate this game, but it's a simple philosophy. Trying to back a horse at a bigger price than you think it should be. And if you can consistently beat starting price with your bets, you should do fine over time. That's that said. What are we looking at next? The 4:30. I don't want this to be too long. We're at 27 minutes. We'll try and keep it kind of 30-35. Now we've got 2 in here. I don't like when there's 2 in a race and they're quite short or they're kind of under 6-1. You just know. I mean, there's backing both. I'm not sure is an option, and you just know. Well, I just know I end up picking the wrong bloody one. Now, what are we looking at here? Peach Melba's getting some weight for age allowances. In form, the ground looks okay. Has run on well on good to firm. I haven't checked the weather if there's any rain about, but it doesn't look like it's on the firm side. At least it's good at worst. Won a Class 5, but so he's won Class 5. It won at Chepstow by dictating a small field. Franny Norton has probably stolen it because he's a clever, canny bugger from the front. And if you haven't seen a couple of his rides at Chester at the weekend, just superb. Again, the way he dictates and then slows down the pace and then kicks and then just holds on as the line approaches is masterful. A master of his art. Anyway, this one is up in class, so it's doing something different, but as a negative. So it won probably because it dictated a slow pace, and it's up in class. It's up £3. And it's 4s, which to me is a bit progressive, going the right way, and there's a chance he might get an easy lead again. It depends on what the Charlie Hills horse does, and Vroom has actually also been up there and led as well. So I can't think any horse here might get an easy lead. So that's how I view that. I'm quite, like I said with Ice Age, I'm quite happy for 4-1 shots to win, because I'll know I will equally avoid plenty of losers at that end, and I'll just struggle to come out in front backing 7-2 and shorter shots, even using my stats and starting points and things. So I'm always happy to look for an excuse not to back a 4-1 or under or 7-2 shot. I can live with them. I can cope. They're not paroles. So you can see that's how House in that. Winning from the front, he probably dictated a slow pace. He probably stole it. He's gone up in weight, he's up in class, the ground's slightly different, it's a different track. And he's in a bigger field here, slightly more competitive race, obviously, because he's up in class. Bahamian Bird is a 4-year-old and a bit more exposed. You can't think he's going to, one there off what, 72, up £6. Looks like the handicapper might have him or her. Doing anything different from the last run? Not really. 7 furlongs, it was class 4, it was 5 runners. Held up, headway, ridden and ran on to go second when it's furlong, no chance of winner. That may have been a progressive winner. That horse may have been going the right way and it bumped into one. But again, it's a small field. It might get a bit of pace to aim at here. She might be ridden more prominently. So the positives are, we've got the stats. He's also a qualifier on the course and distance jockey test below, and I think Fahy Hannigan here was one of the better ones from memory. Has won at class 4, so it could be that race wasn't run to suit or didn't work out. Paul Hannigan takes over. He might race her a bit more handily, and he might be in a closer place to pounce. At least in form, at least we know he gets the track. He is, I should just work out, it is a she, as you'd expect. She is open to anything that's got a bit more in hand, is open to a bit more progress. Now if we click the Instant Expert tab, you can see there, there's quite a few haven't won in the classes yet. Peach Melba has had 3 goes. I need to check if they're handicaps or not, but anyway, 4 goes on good. The wind's coming on good to firm, good to firm. So it could be once a road, but I wouldn't hold that against her necessarily. So, one of those 11 to 2 might be okay, but again, there's no ratings point. This is not an elite squad. There's a bit of green there, consistent, but is going to have to do something different in the sense of kind of win from this mark, which is £6 higher than her last win. And in that context, under 6 to 1 again, I'm more likely personally to have a negative view. But there's 2 of them in the race. They'll probably come first or second, knowing my luck, one way or another. But I can cope with that, and I never do the forecast. The forecast always looks a superb bet after it's come in. I never have the foresight to do it before. One of my many flaws. But betting win only, consistently level stakes is the best way to approach the game long term, while of course throwing the odd fun bet around. And if you land a forecast, give yourself a pat on the back. But yeah, there's my thoughts on those. I'm not in danger at the moment of letting a big priced, unexposed one doing about 300 different things differently, ridden by the best jockey in the race, from winning. No danger there. I told you it will stay in my mind for a little while. Right, now we have the 6:35 from Knots. What are we doing on time? 33. Come on, let's get this done in a couple of minutes. I think there's reasons to be interested probably in all 3. Guishan at 8 to 1, as you're going to see there, hopefully that jumps out, drops in class, has been running class 2s and class 3s. That might be a reason for an improved performance. Also gets first time headgear, cheek pieces. Now that, with a slightly older exposed horse, well, with any horse, headgear isn't necessarily, well, it's never really a positive, because they clearly think she could be doing more. But it is at least something different, and then that is in the context of price. And she is 8 to 1. I also don't know if she's been running in fillies handicaps or not, but that might be another reason for an improved performance. This is a fillies handicap. She may have been racing against the boys. No, this last race out was a fillies handicap as well. So now weekend final furlong, just looks a bit poor and a bit out of form. But there's a jockey switch, the handicap mark's coming down. And you can see there on good to soft, just ticks all race conditions. So 2 from 3 on good to soft. There's a few on here that are unproven. Are they proven on soft? Okay, so we've got quite a few actually that have performed on good to soft. But ticks every condition. So at least she doesn't have a question about the going, the class, the course, the distance, the field size, and no question about handicap mark, given she's now back down to her last winning handicap mark. she's a elite squad qualifier anyway, so really I'd have money on her. It's just a question of judging what, and for me that will probably be the standard elite squad bet, which for me is about a tenner. If I'm less confident, it's about a fiver. If I'm more confident, it's occasionally 15. That's kind of roughly how I work. Sometimes it's 20 if I'm feeling ultra bullish, which is rare. So there's reasons to think she's just bang out of form, and she is more likely to lose than not. I might just have a look and see on the old profile at all. Which this is a good bit of kit. That's something else. If any of you have ever watched some of my older horse race base videos, which are buried in the free reports and systems tab somewhere, let's just have a look at her profile. I want handicaps, I want flat. I quite like this way of looking at horses. My friend, my good pal Ben Aitken at Narrowing the Field does some good work on profile horses, and I've dabbled in it in the past as well, especially class droppers. But you sometimes can find horses that clearly relish certain conditions. So we're looking at flat handicaps. You can see she's 2 from 7. 3 place at Nottingham. Ground's fine, distance is fine. Ali's yet to win on her, but's placed a couple of times. Class 4, you can see there. Class 3, she is 1 from 12, 5 places. So it does have it, but that may have been an anomaly. When she drops into Class 4, she's 4 from 8, 4 places, and you've got those 2 bands of Class 4. This is the weaker level. 2 from 5. Single figure fields does well in. Rest pattern, 16 to 30 days does well in. Straight course, fine. This is what I want to look at, was time of year, August. Now she has run well in June, July before, so she could just be out of form. Sometimes you can find horses that are just 0, so 0 from 6 in June, 0 from whatever in July, and then they'll peak in August and September. And a horse may have been out of form or just starting to show signs of life. And if you like the price, you can take confidence that they're coming into their time of year, because unbelievably, some horses perform very well at certain times of year. That might be because they prefer the sun on their back, or not. It might be linked to do with the ground at that time of year generally, and actually they don't get their ground until that certain time of the year. There's many other different things. It could be the way the trainer trains, and their cycles and how they do different things. What you will note is we probably want her to be backed, because she is 0 from 6, 0 places when sent off on turf at bigger than 8 to 1. And that is the kind of thing that would influence me in terms of betting amount, or added confidence, say. That might be the kind of thing, if I back her at 8 to 1, she drifts to 9 or 10, where I wouldn't, top up with £15 or whatever. So that's interesting. We could just look if she's ever won. So she has won. That was probably on the all-weather, was it? Yeah, so she has won at a bigger price. So actually, what I've just said there about price might be irrelevant. If she's 14 to 1 or bigger, that probably is significant. So some money is important. But what we want to do there is really not much to say else. There isn't a reason not to back her, I don't think. There's a reason you might take a view on how much you back, because there are questions to answer, but she's an okay price in a race which looks fairly open. Now, she is up against a load of unexposed ones. A lot of these are getting weight for age. Clearly the Hannon horse looks well fancied, unexposed, fairly lightly raced, won pretty well last time out, might well win again. But you have to take these horses on. Ground is slightly different here, and is up £4. Might be a deeper race in any case. So there are some informed horses. It isn't a race I think you've got to go mad on. Magical Dreamer, under 6 to 1's a bit of a madam. Swishes the tail quite a bit. Comes on good to soft. She's not getting headgear. She keeps having these longer breaks between races. There is a difference here because the hood's removed. So it's been on twice and now it's removed. You'd think there should be more to come at some point. So by no means a shock winner. 3-year-old, lightly raced, running okay. Leicester may have liked the hill. Flashing tail. She doesn't look the most genuine. Looks like she's a tricky ride. So we'll see. I think there's a few negatives there in the context of the price, but I might have that one wrong. Tilly Trotter, you know what I'm going to say here, in the context of today. Unexposed, 3rd run for the trainer, only had 6 turf runs in her life, only 3 of those in handicaps, so is unexposed, at some point Declan Carroll will find the key and will get wins, I should think. That mark may need to come down to 60s or 50s, but at some point he will get a win because she's clearly got ability, maybe not enough ability to stay in the world yard. But anyway, so she ran after a break. Also, yeah, those 2 runs, you can see there, April. So she had a couple of months off before that Pontefract run. Then she's had a few more days off. She returns here 18 days later. So, you know, it might be 3rd run after a break, 3rd run for the trainer. Might now be hitting full speed. The big question is stamina. The form for previous connections at 5 furlongs. The breeding suggests probably 5 furlongs is best. Mother was a 5 furlong winner, half sister to 5 furlong winner, etc. But unproven. I could not say with confidence at the moment that she has proven she doesn't stay. It looks likely. The other thing we can also notice is she drops in class, and her mark has come down £7 in 2 runs. Tony Hamilton's book, that's an interesting jockey booking. Let's have a look how he does for the trainer. 2 from 16, 4 places, that's fine. At the course, 1 from 3, 2 places, and that was on a 40-1 winner. So the market clearly isn't much of a guide either as to their chances, or necessarily Carroll's in the yard. No, I can't think it's been aimed at this, but it is a drop in class. It's a 3rd start after a break. She's unexposed. That is exactly the same process I should have had with Parole, as you've seen. That is exactly the same reason why I should have put £5 on Parole. That is exactly the same reason why I will put £5 on Tilly Trotter. You would not fall off your seat if she won. You would go back and you go, oh yes, 7th flat start, 3rd for the trainer, 3rd after a bit of a mid-season break. Might just be getting the hang of things. The yard might be getting more used to the horse. They might have found the key at home. There's an interesting jockey booking. It looks a fairly open race. It's a race full. Now there's 3 in-form horses. The race is packed full of in-form progressive horses, and it's highly likely neither one of these 2 is going to win. But they're a decent price. There's a chance they could win. There's reasons to believe they might outperform their odds, and that they're bigger odds than they might necessarily be. And as we know in this game, that is the main thing. And most of these ones lose, but enough win to make it pay. And I will never be scared or not have a bet because of a fear of another horse. I might have less on, but I'll never not back. I wouldn't decide not to back Tilly Trotter because I think the Hannon horse might win. It's hard enough using the starting points, as I proved today in section 1, to make a judgment on that sodding horse, just that one horse. That's without tying yourself in knots about all the other horses in the race, and that isn't the point, because that drains you and it doesn't make it as exciting, and there is no need. You can make a judgment on the horse. You might want to judge the other opposition, and as I said, that impacts how much you bet or how you approach the race or your staking, or whether you decide, oh, it looks a bit competitive, there's two runners, whatever, I might not get involved. The freedom, the choice to do that is clearly up to you. Right, I have been going on for 43 minutes. That's probably far too long enough, isn't it? But I hope you've got something from that, even if it's just a smile at my Opus Dei whipping. Yeah, that is the process I go through. I will stare, and did stare for a good 10 minutes at Parole, and working out what I could have done differently, and that is important. There'll be some of you watching this video who didn't back Parole. Hopefully, like me, you're kicking yourself. Kicking yourself is a good reaction. It's the right reaction because it is the only way we will improve in one of the hardest sports in the world. But that's part of the fun, so that we can try and nab the next one. And there's always going to be more winners. And at some point you have to put a line through it and get excited about the fact of finding the next 16-1 winner, which is exactly what I'm going to do now. And it might well be Tilly Trotter. And on that bombshell, I'm going to wish you good evening. I hope you get something from watching this video. And I will leave that there. Yeah, enjoy the rest of your evening. If you're watching this on Tuesday, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. And yeah, I will leave that there. I'll be back in touch at some point. This is Josh saying good night for now. Thanks for listening. Would help if I pressed the right button to stop recording. So yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is definitely me saying bye for now.